listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellen Flukiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey there, so welcome to today's edition of LA Talk Radio, Your Ultimate Life. And so today I want to ask you a question. How much of your time is taken up by people advertising and trying to get you to buy something or do something? They're busy trying to tell you how to be, how to think, and all that kind of stuff. Does that happen all the time? Like everything from on television to on the internet, I swear, every social media platform is like more and more and more ads. It used to be a few, and then there were more and more, and now they're all over the place. And, you know, one every two is an ad now instead of one of every three, whatever it is, right? So I sure notice that, and I'll bet you do too, and I'll bet you get just as sick of it as I do. But here's the thing. Do you know why people keep spending money to do that? Because it works. People are affected by that. They listen and they think, oh, maybe I should buy that. Maybe I should go there. Maybe that will be good for me. Maybe I should spend my money or my time or my attention on that thing. And that's really sad, because what that does is it teaches us that we don't have any brains, that we can't make decisions for ourselves very well. And we think, no, I do that. Nobody tells me what to do. And I'll call bullshit on that right now. Yeah, they do. And you listen to it and you do that. Ooh, how messy is that? So let's talk about this for a minute, because this show, Your Ultimate Life, I've had a lot of guests recently, and we're going to have another one next week. But every one of these things that we're doing, the guests that we have, and every episode that I have with you is designed to help you in some way create a life that you love. Now, I want you to answer honestly, right this minute, do you love your life? Is there anything about it that you hate? Are you using the language of, it'll sure will be good when, we have the next election, or so-and-so's out of power, or the Fed cuts the interest rates, or I can refinance my mortgage, or if I sell the house, or if I sell the car, or if my spouse will quit, this, that, and the other, or I get my next product launched, or whatever it is. Do you say any of that stuff? If you do, you're not living a life of your dreams, because you are depending on some external thing to change. That's like saying, I won't be happy unless the sun shines tomorrow. Well, obviously that's stupid, because you don't control that, and neither do I, and you're handing your happiness over to the weather. Well, we all know the weather is as variable as it gets. It's as crazy, unpredictable as it gets. Those are called complex systems, and the saying is, if a butterfly flaps its wings in Beijing, it creates a tornado in Kansas. And that might seem silly, but complex systems are true. It's that complicated. So here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what it actually takes to live today, not someday in the future, not I'll be happy when, but today. Now, if you look at your life right now and you're really happy, like you get up every day and you think, maybe not every day, but nearly every day, I couldn't flippin' be any better. This is the best damn day of my life. That's a saying of a friend of mine. He makes a habit of saying that. Whenever anybody asks how he is, he just says, best damn day of my life. And of course, that's a conversation starter, because then people assume that some fantastic thing has happened, and they say, wow, how come? Where did that come from? And then he gets a chance to explain what we're going to talk about right now for a little bit. And that is, you can decide that today is the best day just because you said so. Because I said so. And I want you to hold on to that phrase for a minute. Because I said so. And we're going to talk about what that means. Many of the guests that we've had on here have talked about their businesses. They've talked about being in the business of helping others. I'm just finishing up a group of 11 cohort of 11 people writing books. So we're going to have over the next 2 or 3 months, 11 books published, and they'll get all kinds of marketing, and they'll get bestsellers, and they'll get media coverage and all kinds of stuff, because that's part of the service that we provide. Joyce Joy, my angel that I'm married to in our publishing company, she does that really well and provides all kinds of service. So each one of those books has a mission, a message, a purpose. And each one is designed to bless, lift, serve, help, teach those who read it. I've got a book coming out in about a week, and it's called Coaching and the Rise of AI. And it is two things. It's the observations that I am making about what ChatGPT and Claude and Grok and all the rest are doing in the world, how they're growing and what they're doing, the effect that they're having in the coaching industry, hence Coaching and the Rise of AI. Now, I've been in the coaching industry about 14, 15 years. Not as long as some got 20 or 30 years. I have about 15. So what I'm noticing is in the last year, there's been a dramatic impact. I see every single day on various social media advertisements for coaching bots that are going to coach you, that are going to solve all your problems. I just saw one the other day where just for, just a few bucks, you're going to be able to talk to the future you. And they're going to be able to tell you all the things you need to do right now to have that amazing, whatever you need to do now to create that future you. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with creating those kinds of tools, but they're bypassing the most critical part of our experience in this life. We are here to learn. We're not here to bypass. We're not here to cheat. We're not here to pretend. And my own experience, every time we pretend, every time we don't face whatever challenges we have, whether they're financial, physical, emotional, mental, whatever they are, whenever we don't face those head on, we shortchange ourselves. We taking that shortcut isn't helpful in the little bit longer run. And that's true because how many times have you heard people say, either in books or in interviews or anything, about some terrible thing that happened to them, and then a year, a month, a year, or a decade later, they say, well, that was actually a blessing in disguise. And some will say, best thing that could have ever happened to me. Why would they say that? Bankruptcy, betrayal, somebody ripping them off, their spouse cheating on them and ending or destroying trust, as well as the relationship, or some physical assault, some kind of abuse, or physical damage, some illness. Best thing that could ever happen to me. Why would someone say that? I want you to think about that for a minute, because you hear it all the time. You do. And you read books. Those people, they write books about why that's true, and they write books about what they've learned, and books and movies about, what's changed in their hearts because those things happened. That's so true, and it's so important. So you could take the point of view that, okay, all this tough stuff that happens to me is going to make my life better. Now, that's part of the reason, way back where we started, all these ads and people trying to sell you happiness every 5 minutes. I saw another ad today from a coach that I know. I don't know him personally really well, but I've seen his ads and read some of his books. Oh, all that stuff you've ever been told, it's all garbage. But I know the way, right? It's all garbage for these 5 reasons, and I know the real way. Well, that's just nonsense on its face, because that means, the whole of human race, we've all failed until you came with this way. It's just nonsense. So what is real about this? Why are we so prone to accepting everybody else's opinion? Someone telling us what we need to wear, think, eat, vote for, who we need to be, all to make us happy. If so-and-so gets elected, the world's better. If this or that changes, the world's better. Your life is better. you don't know that. So what do we know? So let's talk about what we know for sure. What we know is that we're here. You wake up every morning, you get up, and your eyes are open, and you're there breathing you're there for another day. I got a client who says, ask him how he's doing. Well, sitting up and taking food. I love that. It's a fun comment. Yes, you are sitting up and taking food. That's the starting point. You're alive to live another day. Now, usually what happens is right after that moment of wakefulness, we sort of slink into the day. Check some email, any disasters. Maybe we look at the news or the summary in Android or Apple News apps, to see if anything blew up overnight, that kind of thing. I did look at one thing this morning. The World Series is on last night and tonight. And when I went to bed, I'm in Canada, and so Canada's got one team. The Blue Jays are in the World Series playing the Dodgers, and at the ninth inning last night, it was getting to be my bedtime, so I went to bed. It's a good thing because I found out this morning 18 innings, tied for the longest game ever. I guess that was another 18-inning game about 4 or 5 years ago. And I was sad because the Blue Jays lost, and you listening may be happy because the Dodgers won. Whatever. But other than that, I didn't, and almost never do I look at anything in the morning because I don't want to give the doom scrolling or the advertisement or those external things power over my day. I don't want to do that. I don't want my mood set by the news or by some email that I got or by some text message, a client that wants this, or someone said yes or no to a proposal I made. Make a lot of money, turn down for making a lot of money. I don't want those external things to create my day. So I talk about the ultimate life. That's the name right there on the bottom of the screen. How do you have that? Well, first of all, no externality can give you that. Nothing outside of you can give you that. No amount of money, no amount of petting from somebody that says you're cool, no amount of acknowledgement or recognition. That will not give you that. And the reason is you alone decide what makes you happy. Here's what I can tell you. That sounds like a contradiction. Because if I decide, if 20 people today tell me I'm cool, I'll be happy. You can decide that. Or if I win a certain number of proposals or win the lottery, if I get $1 million or 10 million or $1 billion, then I'll be happy. So you can say that. And there is an irrevocable law in the universe that that's not true. Because nothing outside of us will actually make us happy for more than a few minutes. The only thing that make us happy is the stuff inside. That's why a lot of times people say, well, it's an inside-out job. Happiness is an inside job. You can be happy when things go your way, and you can be happy when things don't go your way. So we're not going to talk a lot about that today, but that's a foundational truth. If you start from your ability to be happy, whether anything does or doesn't happen around you, the whole world changes for you. You're no longer looking for someone's approval or someone's recognition or a certain amount of money or certain weather or anything. Those might be frosting on your cake. Oh, that was fun. But your worth isn't decided by that. Your worth is non-negotiable. Now, one of the things that happens a lot in a coach's life, like mine, is we talk a lot about purpose. It's even in the title. The ultimate life is the life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Well, purpose is the driving force. When you know your why, like why you live every day, why you go do what you do, and you know that, and it's front and center, and it's powerful, and you love that why, how hard things are doesn't really matter because you're really committed to go there. There's a story that I read earlier today about jumping off of a ledge into some water. Now, if there's a ledge 200 feet up in the air, you look down there and that's a long ways. Maybe I'll die or whatever. And if someone says, well, I'll give you $1 million to do that, you might still say no. 2 million, 5 million. Maybe there's some number that says, oh, it's worth it. I'll take the risk. Now, let's change the story. Let's say it's only 10-foot drop, but the water's full of sharks. and they tell you those sharks haven't eaten in a week. Well, probably there's no amount of money in the world, 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion. There's no way you jump into that pool full of sharks. Same situation. You're standing there and your kid falls in. You wouldn't even breathe. You wouldn't blink. Into the water you go. So that is an internal motivation, and that motivation is love. You love and are responsible for that individual, and you wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't stand around and say, well, do I love him enough to do that? You'd just go. In you'd go. You'd be in the air before they hit the water. Right? Because why? Because that motivation, that why, is big enough. Now, I want to talk about a why for your life. Let me give you an example. I have a why. My why is to help 300 million people learn something and then do something with that learning. Here's the learning. Your WIPOS. You've heard me talk about this before. W is worth. Your worth is infinite because you're a child of the divine. I is your identity as a son or daughter of God. P is your possibility. The acronym is WIPOS, W-I-P-O-S, right? Your possibility is infinite because you're built with divine DNA. And O is ownership, and S is sovereignty. Worth, identity, possibility, ownership, sovereignty. So I want you to think for a minute about how you go about your activities in the day. Do you hate some of them? Do you love all of them? Are you excited about everything? Or is it, crap, I wish I didn't have to do that? What if, play with me here for a minute, what if you could live a life so that every single thing you do all day long, every day, you said, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, I'm excited about that. I get to do that. What if that were true? Now, you might say it's impossible. I want you to think about a dog. Every single thing in the dog's life is their favorite thing to do. Time to eat, favorite thing to do. Time to go outside, favorite thing to do. Time to go for a walk, favorite thing to do. Time to chase the cat, favorite thing to do. Time to come and get petted, favorite thing to do. So the idea that it's not possible to live where everything is your favorite thing to do all the time is not true. And you might say, well, the dog's stupid. He doesn't know, fill in the blank. And you know what? Every single thing that fills in the blank after that doesn't matter. It's nonsense. It's a story you made up. Maybe they won't like me. Maybe you won't pet me well enough. Maybe it won't be fun. Or I'm going to go do this proposal for my business, and maybe they'll tell me no. And maybe I won't get any clients, and maybe I'll starve to death. Or maybe I'll get fired at work, and I won't be able to pay my bills. And we fill our minds and hearts with this story stuff. And I want to give you something today that will fix all of that for you if you let it. If you let it. So here it is. When I said about jumping off that ledge into the shark-infested waters to save your kid, immediately you know. So I want to ask you about your purpose. Do you have a life purpose? And I'm not saying that your purpose can't change. When you're 15 years old, your purpose might be one thing. And maybe when you're 25, it might be another. And when you're 35, it might be another. As I have had my post-corporate career for the last 20 years, my purpose has changed, morphed, but it has become richer and more textured with every mutation, as it were. So I'm going to give you the secret right now about how to find or declare or own your life purpose. Would you like that? Good, because here's what we're going to do. Your life purpose, I want you to think about DNA for a minute. DNA is two strands. We've all seen the DNA helix and all that stuff. So let's imagine a DNA strand with three things, the triple helix. There are three things. Now, before we dig into how that works, you have to land completely on this idea of WIPOS or WIPOS, W-I-P-O-S. Okay? Because before we talk about your purpose, what you do in the world, it's important that we land clearly on who you are. So you're a divine being. I don't care if you believe that or not. I don't care if you're mad at God because of something that's happened in your life and you say things like, if there were a God, he wouldn't let this happen. We don't know that. This little existence, 70 years, 100 years, 25 minutes, it is just a micro dot in the scope of eternity. And when you or I, we sit quietly, we know we came from somewhere and we're going somewhere. You know that. So then that says, wow, what does this little space mean? Well, I'll give you one way to think about that. We came into the world not remembering anything that came before, except sometimes we get glimpses of, past existence. Some people call it past lives, some existence before this. And so we came with nothing. We came helpless, naked, and with nothing. And in a few years, 20, 50, 70, 100, we're going to leave. And we're going to leave with nothing. Nothing from your bank account, no accolades, no Olympic gold medals, none of that's going with you. The only thing that we're going to take with us is who we have become, what we have made of ourselves. Okay, that's not money and that's not position. It is the things we have created, the characteristics. Now, if you choose to create a life of joy, PPJ, purpose, prosperity, and joy, you're going to take that with you. Not the material manifestations, but you're going to take with you the ability to live in joy. You're going to take with you the ability to create because you had it here. You developed it here. So we need to settle on who we are. We're divine beings. Now, you guys know the story. I died in 2018, 7 years ago. So I had a chance to have 3 conversations with God at the door between life and eternity. And I wrote a book about that called Meeting God at the Door, because the conversations took place at a doorway. But anyway, you know that. You came from somewhere and you're going somewhere. And even if life is full of hardship and struggle, I certainly have had my share, maybe more, maybe less than you. The point isn't the struggle. The point is what we make out of that. So let's talk about when you realize that you're divine and your worth is infinite and nothing you or I do can change that. I can't not be a son of the divine or daughter. We can't do anything about that. We're a son or daughter of the divine, and there's nothing we can do to change that. I don't know why we'd want to, but we can. What's really important is because that's true, and you have divine DNA, your possibility's infinite. Most of us deny that. Most of us ignore it. Somebody said, our greatest fear isn't that we're weak, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. And I don't remember who said that first. I remember there's a Marianne Williamson quote about that. I don't know if that was the original or if she was quoting someone. It doesn't matter. That's a really important point. We're scared of our light. We're scared of the possibility. I know I used to be scared of it. I didn't know it at the time, but I was scared to death of it because my thought was always, what if I do it wrong? What if I suck? What if I try to do something and I get judged? So what? So what? So you're divine. That means you have infinite possibility, and then that means exciting time. So how do you find your unique purpose? Well, it's easier than you think. I hear people say so often, well, I just don't know what my purpose is. I don't really know what I'm here to do. If I could just find that, I'd be okay. Well, I'll tell you how to find it right now. It's in that triple helix. So the first piece of that, the first strand that you have is your skills. Now, maybe you went to school to be an architect or an engineer. Maybe you went to trade school to be a mechanic. Maybe you didn't go to school and you learned from the school of hard knocks, but you've become a really good musician Or maybe you went to Juilliard. I don't know. But whatever it is, you have developed a set of skills. And if you don't know where to start looking for your skills, look at the things you have sold in the marketplace. Right? What are the jobs that you've had that you have been paid for? Now, some of them you may not like and you may not want to do again. I got paid to mow lawns. So it's a skill that I might have. Number one, I don't think it's very developed. I didn't have those beautiful diagonal, I didn't ever do that. Right? I had a job for a whole summer with a contract painter. So I learned about paints and how to paint houses. And the most interesting and funny thing we did was a miniature golf course. Not one, but three. So there's 54 holes, 3 18-hole golf courses. My most memorable thing from that is when the ladder slipped. I was up high painting a pagoda, and I fell off the top of a ladder. And fortunately, it was kind of a slow-motion train wreck, and I had time to sort of plan the moment I would jump off the ladder and where I'd land. And, I didn't break anything, fortunately. But nevertheless, that wouldn't be a skill that I would want to do again and again. But you have several skills that you have developed. Some of them you've sold in the marketplace, and maybe some of them you haven't. So if you want to find your life purpose, first make a list of your skills. Those are things that you either have been paid for or you could get paid for. Maybe you've never sold them. Maybe you've got a hobby that you're really good at that you could get paid for if you wanted, but you just haven't. So start with what pays your bills now, right? And think about those things and make a list of those. Now, some of them are going to be more fun than others, but just have a list. Mark the ones that you're really good at, maybe the ones you've been doing for a year or 20. Okay, so that's your first thing. I want you to think about that, and I want you to actually make a list. Now, the second strand in your triple helix is your gifts. Now, you came with gifts from when you were born. I call them divine gifts. You can call them whatever you want. Maybe they were things you learned or were taught before you came, in the existence before this one. Whatever, you have them. Some talents are really obvious, like sports, people that are very athletic, right? Some people have music talent. I was blessed with a lot of musical ability. I really enjoy it. It's played a big role in my life. Some people have artistic ability. They can paint or draw or do other kinds of artistic expression. Lots of those gifts aren't visible like those ones I just mentioned. How about the gift of listening? How about the gift of making people feel safe? How about the gift of being trusted? How about the gift of being a great teacher? How about the gift of listening to someone so deeply that they feel really seen? So there's 100 of those, or 1,000. And most of us downplay those. They don't matter very much, and we do that because it's easy for us and magic for other people. I have a friend that I used to know, and I know them, and we used to hang out a lot. And when we were in a situation, they always seemed to just know what the right thing was to do next. Some bad thing or difficult thing happened, and they're like, well, what if we do that? And it was like, duh, why didn't me or somebody else think of that? So that was the gift they had, a gift of knowing what to do in situations. So your second strand is I want you to list the gifts that you have. Now, you may need to go talk to somebody. You may need to talk to a friend or some clients, people close to you. What does it seem like I know how to do really well? Don't downplay any of these, and don't do them just in your head. If you want this to work, if you don't give a crap and you think I'm crazy, then don't bother. But if this is something you really want to find that purpose, this is how. So you got a list of your skills and you got a list of your gifts, and don't do it in a trivial way, and don't do it in 5 minutes. Give it some thought, maybe a day or two, talk to some people, and accept what they have to say. Don't do the push away, downplay game, because you're just exploring. This is not about bragging. It's not about being puffed up. It's about an honest assessment. Gifts are things people come to you for. Just people always seem to ask you X, Y, Z. Those kinds of things, they're gifts. They're gifts that you have. Easy for you, hard for others. You might be one that sees a solution, or, maybe you're the person people call when they need encouragement, whatever. So that's 2 lists that you've got. All right. Now the third strand in this is the most important, okay, by far, but it's not enough by itself. The third strand is your life experience. Your scars are your credentials. Your struggles are your unique specializations. Maybe you've dealt with a certain kind of illness. Maybe you had a kid that had cancer. Maybe you've had a betrayal that was horrifying in your life. Maybe you had a fatal illness and miraculously you recovered. Maybe you've had a series of bad financial things happen to you. Bankruptcy or betrayal from someone who ripped you off, a bunch of money, business partner or whatever, and you've gotten through that. Maybe you had a personal relationship betrayal and you got through it and you figured out how to do it. And maybe you needed help, me overcoming addictions that I had earlier in life and mental illness, deep. Is that 4 deeps? Enough deeps. Depression, it was ruining my life so much so that I attempted suicide a couple times. Those are some scars that I have that are credentials. The path through your struggles is your area of expertise, your specialization. Every challenge you've overcome, every mountain you've climbed, every valley you walked through, it's not just your history. Hear me, it is your authority. And it's not hard to see why. If I talk about something, that thing over there, and I talk about it, maybe I know a lot about it, and I talk about it in detail and very convincingly. That is education. I can teach someone about that thing. If I talk about, or you do, if you talk about your lived experience, the battle scars, the things you have determinedly, without giving up, with perseverance, made your way through, that is a completely different thing. When you talk from that place, you speak with power, you speak with authority, you speak in a way that cannot be refuted because it is your lived experience. So the third strand is your life experience. Now, there's a way, I'm going to show you a book here, there's a way to mine your life to get those experiences. And I put that in the Story Arc, which is a book I wrote about how to help people find their life story and write books, write their own books, and create products and services that they can serve with from their life experience. There's a tool in there called a DSM, and it's not the shrink manual, but it's the Developmental Story Matrix. Now, if you get that book, the Story Arc, and use the Developmental Story Matrix, you're going to not only be able to pinpoint the pivotal events, but most importantly, you're going to be able to see very clearly how they affected you and why, and how they refined you. Now, sometimes when those things happen, they ruin us. We get mad, we get burned down, we get, or they refine us. Sometimes we let those things ruin us for a day or a year or a decade. And if we choose, they can refine us. So what we're looking for is the things that have happened that we have chosen to allow to refine us. The refiner's fire that you or I have been through. So that's your strand 3. Now, you need to make those lists, your skills, your gifts, and the lessons from your life experience. Because your story might be somebody else's map. It might be their guiding star. Okay, so now you have 3 lists. And what you do next is you weave those together. Now, everything in all the lists isn't going to be necessary. Like I said, maybe I learned how to paint, and I don't know that I would put that in the thing that I want for my life purpose. So you look through them and you try different things, combinations, skills that you have that you enjoy, that you know that you would enjoy doing to get paid, gifts that you have that augment those skills. So let me give you an example. Let's say someone decides to be an attorney, okay? And they go to school and they pass the bar and they're an attorney. A gift they have is one of deep listening, of understanding beyond the words. Well, if they exercise those two gifts together, they're going to be a hell of a better attorney. Clients are going to want to come. Why? Because they feel heard. They feel paid attention to. They feel listened to. Like I have. How many times have you had an attorney or somebody professional and you're trying to tell them something, you frickin' don't think they're listening because what they keep saying doesn't indicate that whatever you talked about landed. All right? Isn't that irritating? So in that case, the attorney marries his ability to listen really powerfully, and wow, so much more valuable. Now, maybe that person had a life experience of where he saw someone mistreated in a particular way, where injustice was done, and he was either part of that himself or witness to it in a very visceral and powerful way. And so that may make that person be a crusader. I am going to help these people. Well, if you combine that passion with the skill of learning of the lawyer and the gift of listening, it's not hard to see how you can weave a triple helix rope that's way more powerful than any of the strands alone. Now, here's a promise I can make for you, okay? If you do this work, weave your purpose rope from your skills, your gifts, and your life experience, and you're going to try different ones. But if you try them before you've actually done the work to identify your skills, your gifts, and especially the lessons from your life experience, it's going to be a frustrating exercise because it's hollow. So once you've done a good job of identifying at least 10 or 15, especially in the life experience column, 20 or 30 lessons, things that you've learned, and at least 10 in the other two, you're going to be able to weave them one together to something that just lights your soul on fire. Now, if you're looking at me saying, nah, it's not going to work, I'll just look you right in the eyes and say you have no idea what you're talking about because you haven't done the work. One of the most favorite things that I do in my coaching work is help people find and, man, get married to that purpose and figure out how to do something with it. So I said in the beginning, first toward the beginning, that my goal is to help 300 million people with a message. The message is WIPOS, worth, identity, possibility, ownership, sovereignty. Part of that is helping them find their own life purpose, your own life purpose based on your skills, gifts, and life experience. Okay, you found it. Then what? Because the real purpose for finding that is so that you or me, we can have the impact, make the difference in the world we want to. We want to make a big dent in what? Well, I know what I want to make a big dent in. I live so much of my life doubting my worth, believing I didn't have a purpose, knowing that I wasn't going to amount to much, that now that I've discovered that the opposite is true, and I have, when I weave it together, that unbreakable rope, my goal is to help as many people as I can not only hear that message, but do it, understand and create that braided rope of purpose, and then take it into the world to make the impact and the cash, impact and income, impact and income. So if your desire is to change the world in some way, make a difference, get paid well for what you do well, for what you know, for what you love, that triple helix. If you want to find it and make cash, big cash, doing that, I invite you to talk to me because that has become my purpose, is to help people do that. And the reason is because I did it for myself. I walked that road, skills, gifts, life experience. It's documented in all the books that I've written. Now, you guys know I've written 21. I got a book coming out next week and another one in December, so that'll be 22. So I've written 22 books. Why? It's about that journey. None of it is about that thing over there that I talk about. It is all blood on the floor, real life experience. And that's how come I know how powerful that is for you. Not for me. You're just from the same divine place I am. Your life is just as important as anyone else's, and don't let anyone tell you that. Your love is as powerful. Your purpose makes as much difference. Your ability is just as infinite. Your skill that you need to have purpose, prosperity, and joy isn't like a skill flying an airplane. The biggest thing you need to have is a choice. I'm going to create this and no one's going to stop me. I'm climbing that mountain no matter what. I'm getting over all these old stories that you or I have had about worth, about value, about whether or not we can make anything of ourselves, about whether or not we can make the impact. You know, all that crap. I've heard that story umpteen thousand times in umpteen thousand different descriptors, right? I've said it, you've said it. If you're tired of that life and you want to create the ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy, then go back through that process. Weave your triple helix. Weave your unbreakable rope of purpose made up from your skills, your gifts, and your life experience. Now, I want to make a claim here that's bold. If you do that, you can make the biggest impact, make the most money, and have the most fun of anything you could do with your life. And that's a promise. And it's not hard to understand because that is the most complete offering that you or I have. It uses the best skills. It uses the best gifts, and it uses the hard-won truth of our life experience. And that is the most valuable thing you or I have to offer. The story of our own becoming. So I want you to think about that and do the homework. Don't just hear this and say, okay. All right. Now, here's another example. Let's say your skill is that you're a marketing professional. I know somebody that's this. They studied, went to school for marketing. And their gifts are that they naturally encourage people. And they see the possibility and potential in others. And maybe experience in their own life is that they were shy or beat down or told they wouldn't amount to anything, and they've overcome that. So they overcame, the beat downs and the imposter syndrome, and they built confidence. So that triple helix could be a confidence coach of some kind to train people to do powerful marketing to put their gifts and talents in the world. I know that person. And they do that, and they do a great job of it. They're a fabulous marketing coach. And they do really good, and their clients make lots of money. So, but it came from weaving those skills. And the other reason that this is so important is because when you do that, build that rope, you feel aligned. You absolutely feel aligned because it's all of you. All right, so I want to talk about your activation process, about how to make this real in your life. So, first of all, write this down. Write down who you are. Okay? And it can't be, I'm an accountant or whatever. I am, it has to start with a divine being with skills and gifts and life experience that matter and will matter to more and more people. And it will allow me to make money and impact if I'm willing to do the work to weave them together into a powerful offering. Otherwise, we just offer this sort of scattered smorgasbord. And we'll help people a little bit over here because we listen really well. And we keep going to work in a job doing one or more of the skills that we had. And our life experience maybe has made us bolder or maybe it's beat us down, but we don't connect those. We treat them as three different things. You're never going to get the kind of power you need. Now, here's the other thing I want you to do. I want you to start exercising this. So if you do this exercise, skills, gifts, and life experience, and you weave a practice rope, right? You're not going to get it right the first time. I've refined mine 15 times, and it's really cool. And one of the reasons is because you can change your mind, but the other reason is as you start using it, the way to refine it gets obvious and it gets more and more exciting. So the way to get hooked into your purpose is to take a first stab and then go serve. Go help somebody with that purpose. And you don't have to run around and try to, figure out a business model and start charging right away. Right now, you're testing your service orientation because all sales and products are service anyway. So go weave your rope using the exercise and then go help somebody with that rope. How did it feel? What changes did you create? What did they feel? How does it affect you? And the adjustments will be really obvious. I promise you. They will be so obvious and clear to you. And the other thing I can promise you is it'll be fun. We are built as humans to love and serve each other. It's built into our DNA. We're divinely created to be in love and service. You can argue with me or whatever, but that's how we're built and that's how we're happiest. All right. So the third thing I want to say is you got to trust the process. I've given you a process. List of skills, list of gifts, mind your life experience, weave a rope, pick some tentative, 1 or 2 or 3 tentative statements of purpose, go serve somebody with it, and then try it again. I can promise you this process iteratively will land you on a purpose that lights your fire and lets you make a huge difference and big cash. And you can argue with me, and all I'll ask you is show me the proof that you tried. Show me where you did this. Show me that you tried this, because I've never seen it not work. I've also never seen it not make the impact and the money, income and impact that you need. And money's not a dirty word. It's a powerful and positive word. Because if you want to make a bigger and bigger and bigger impact, you got to have cash. Like you can't reach the world doing nothing. Money is a lubricant. It is a thing that allows you to have larger and larger reach. Of course it does. All right, so there's your challenge. You're not behind. You're perfect where you are now. You're hearing this invitation because you were meant to. I'm issuing you an invitation and a challenge. Go build your triple helix. Go create your purpose. And then play with it, serve with it, adjust it. I challenge you to do that. And I promise you, it will be more fun than you know. And you will quickly be able to see how it can land you in the middle of a delightful, ultimate life, right? The feeling that you really can build any life you want, create purpose, prosperity, and joy beyond anything you can imagine right now. It's not out of reach. You're not too late. You're not behind. It is never too late to matter and to have a big impact, including making the money you need to leverage your impact, do more, build more, and give more. And when you do that, that's more fun than you know. You can live that ultimate life today. You don't have to get to the destination. The joy is in the journey. Your worth is settled. Your identity is settled. This is your invitation to go do something more fun, more profitable, and more joyful with it right now as you create your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellen Flukiger, only on LA Talk Radio.